What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now Plus. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to talk about day one patches. I'm feeling in a kind of creative mood, and we've done some different kinds of videos on this channel over the last little while. I want to keep it rolling with just kind of having a discussion video, kind of just my thoughts on this. So here's what I want to talk about, again, the day one patch. Now, as the title suggests, and this really comes about, I would say, from my conversation a few days ago, or even when I'm recording this, I think yesterday I recorded it, talking about Horizon Forbidden West. The narrative of people kind of saying online, Twitter obviously will always just create narratives just to create them, but, is it a buggy mess, day one patch, all of that stuff. And it got me thinking, and I said it in that video, day one patches are a way of life. It's something that comes with every single game. You kind of just expect it. And I understand it, and it's exactly what the title says, right? I understand it, but I also hate day one patches. I think, now there's different kinds of day one patches, right? You have to kind of differentiate between day one patches that, I guess, you need them, like they fix what would be a broken game, without them. And honestly, sometimes with some of these games, it's not necessarily even that they fix it, but that there are maybe noticeable problems you have with the game that then require a day one patch to, like, solidify that, like, the game is going to be okay, and then you can go on for a couple weeks and you can kind of get some, like, quality of life kind of updates as the weeks go on, or patches as the weeks go on. So you do have to differentiate between the day one patches that pretty much like every single game under the sun has, and maybe you wouldn't be able to tell between if it didn't have the day one patch versus it having it. Oftentimes, right, sometimes reviewers and even myself, I don't get codes for every single game under the sun, but I've gotten games for sure that they've said, the day one patch isn't included, so like there will be one. Sometimes they'll say, what the day one patch will fix, and then you play through the game as you're, reviewing it or whatever, and sometimes I've experienced them, and sometimes I haven't. I actually think Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy was one of those. I did have some issues, or like a glitch where like a mission didn't work, I had to restart the game, whatever, but overall, like the stuff that they said they were going to fix in the day one patch, where it's like, okay, there's actually some really big things that could happen to you in this game. Once the day one patch comes out, those things won't happen anymore, so just keep an eye out for those. And those things actually didn't happen to me. Does that make sense? So, I get it. Every game now, and I said that in the Horizon video, right? Every game over the last, like, 5 or so years, every game now, and every game for the next forever is going to have, you know what I mean? They're going to need this. Now, I'm not the biggest fan of that. No, again, like games that need it to make the game work, I think is not the greatest of all time. I guess you can just call it for what it is. It's annoying. It's stupid, right? Because just wait for your game. If you need a day one patch to make your game like work, then why couldn't you have delayed it like a couple weeks or a couple months so that you wouldn't need the day one patch? Now, I don't know, like the answer to a lot of these things are probably hidden. They probably only could be answered by those like in the industry, right? Because you could argue, well, but think about it the other way, right? And I try to see all sides to think. I really do. I really, really try to see them. But so let's try the other side, right? So let's say, all right, well, but what's necessarily the harm of a game coming out like when it's supposed to? So you announce the release date is May 15th. And the game comes out May 15th, but it needs a day one patch. And if you don't do that day one patch, you're going to, encounter some pretty severe, issues with the game. Okay, so that happens, right? Now, like, should you have delayed it till June 15th? Or, like, is it fine because as long as you have internet, and you download that patch, the game can come out when they want it to, and it solves it. Like, you won't experience the issues. I guess, like, I get it. I guess from an internet perspective, I don't think it's necessary. I guess maybe that's like an old-timey thing. I'm not even that old. I'm 25, and I'm not even old enough to remember or was like a part of when games would come out and like they absolutely had to be good. I guess I was like in the PS3 era, right? Games when they came out, like patches weren't the exact same back with the PS3 era and that's when I first got into like heavy, like hardcore gaming. It's not the same back then as it was now, right? It's just not. So I do understand it. Times have changed, and internet is more serviceable. Like everybody kind of has internet now, right? So it's not the biggest deal in the world, but I don't know. I prefer the game to come out like, and it's ready to. And as I said, actually in that Horizon video, a perfect world would be for every game to come out and it wouldn't need, right? You know what I mean? They come out and day one, you pop in or you download it, and that is the game. You don't need patches for it. You don't need anything. Now, you know, like I said, there's different kinds of patches. There's patches that, like I said, for like the Guardians of the Galaxy example, where like bad things could happen, big bad things, but maybe they won't, and maybe some people actually go through the entire thing and nothing happens to them. There's patches, maybe even like Horizon. Horizon really, you know, it's got small things here and there, and actually Horizon's probably a good example, right? Because there's the patches that, you know, there's small things, there's issues, but they're not big deals. They don't ruin the game. And it gives the developer, you know, unless you want them to keep delaying it. And of course, that's a counter argument, right? Well, they could delay it another month, but then maybe they find a couple more glitches. And like, can a game ever fully be fully realized and 100%, you know, perfect and everything works exactly as it should? Is that ever like a feasible goal, or I guess an achievement? Like, can you actually reach it? Maybe not. And you know what I mean? So something like Horizon, or as we see, I would say with most games come out and they are in working conditions, and, you know, would there be small issues with them? Sure. Every game probably has small, you know, bugs, glitches that could be addressed through patches, but they would be very playable, you know, without it. Not every game, I would say most games probably don't have major game-breaking things in them at launch, and that's kind of the world we want, right? Like, let's try to get every game to come out where they don't have those issues, and let's try to get games to come out where they are like Horizon, where there's some things, and if they never patched it, you know, I guess would it hurt the review score? Would it hurt how you see of it? Maybe. It's up to us, right? It's up to us, the individual. But if they wanted to patch it, it's a small thing. You can patch it, and then you know, it's fine. So that's why it's a I don't like it, because I think it continues to push the idea that these games are never really fully complete. And maybe it was like a false kind of illusion what people were living in like 10, 15, 20 years ago, where it's like, well, maybe those games actually could have been even better if they were, you know, able to do patches. But, you know, in terms of how we view them, those games worked, those games were fine. Nowadays, again, like, you have this thing where every game needs that patch, you know, every single one, and that does get annoying. And that does, again, it's like, can you just wait for the game to work? Now, again, there's that difference between that and then maybe like a Cyberpunk thing, or games that have massive issues that a day one patch will fix some of them, but they will still be huge game-breaking stuff, you know, maybe huge dropped frames or whatever. Like, that kind of stuff will linger, and they'll need multiple I would say limit each game to at max one massive patch, right? If you can't solve, and you know, obviously it's a little bit of an exaggeration or a joke, but I would say this kind of would be almost like a rule of thumb. If a game comes out, right, and it's one of those examples of like, there's some pretty big issues that would need a patch to address. If you need more than one patch to fix your game of being broken, what you would consider broken, then the game probably shouldn't be out yet. That I think is, you know, in terms of, again, seeing it in the middle or being in the middle or seeing both sides, that's probably like the nicest I could, you know what I mean? Or like the most compromised I would get, where honestly, I would prefer if we didn't have any of those sized updates or patches. I'd prefer if we had smaller ones, but, and that's at the max. But if you need a huge one, please make it one, because if you need like 2 or 3, and now we're into like month 2, 3, 4, and the game still isn't fixed yet, right? When a game, even like a Fallout 76 or let's be honest, a lot of Bethesda games don't come out in great condition. When you need like 2 to 4 months to get the game fully realized of like how you wanted to launch a day one, but like you didn't do it, so now you needed almost half a year to get there. When that happens, the game shouldn't have come out. It shouldn't have. It should not have released yet. You released it too early, and you should have delayed it. And, you know, and there's different parts to this. You can go on, you know, long tangents. You could talk about, well, Cyberpunk. I think Cyberpunk did kind of scare the industry, where people are a little bit more, they're playing it more safe, where it's like, all right, maybe we will hold on to these games just a little bit longer. We won't make them do 2, 3, 4, 5 huge patches to fix everything. Maybe we'll only do one, and we'll have the game come out a little bit later, and we can fix those things behind the scenes. So I thought it would be an interesting discussion. I've wanted to kind of start to introduce more of these just personal, me talking to you guys kind of topics, and maybe start on this channel. If it does well, we can move it to the other channel. So let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Make sure you guys are subscribed to the channel. Hit the bell icon so you guys know when all these videos go up. And I hope to see you all for tomorrow's video.